Love the timeless look of blue and white crochet? In this tutorial, I'm making a stunning granny square pillow featuring a square inside a square design for a beautiful geometric effect. This easy crochet project is perfect for beginners and experienced crocheters alike. I'm jumping right into the tutorial, so grab your yarn and hook and let's get started. Stay tuned until the end for all the material details. This granny square has 5 rounds and the first one starts with a magic ring. Get the end of your tail, wrap it around your middle finger, hold it with your thumb, and then under the tail insert your hook, grab the working yarn, pull a loop, and chain 3. So this first chain counts as double crochet. So for the first granny cluster, we'll have 2 double crochets. Together with the first chain, we will have 3 double crochets for a granny cluster. Then we'll chain 2 and then we'll make another granny cluster, which is 3 double crochets. Insert your hook through the ring that you formed around your finger, catching the tail as well. 2, 3, chain 2, and then do 2 more granny clusters for a total of 4 because we need 4 corners. And I'll meet you when I'm done. After chaining 2, we're going to go back to that first chain and we will do a slip stitch. And now we closed that first round. Get the tail and tighten your ring. Insert your hook through a couple of loops in the back and do a chain with the tail. This will secure the beginning. And then going into the top row here, walk that tail through a few stitches so you lock it in place when you crochet in the corner. So make sure it goes through the corner. And now that loop here, get your work through the loop so you secure that stitch and you don't have to worry about it. Flip to the front and grab your next color. If you're not sure where you need to put your corners, in those places here you can put a stitch marker or a little clippy to tell you where to put the corners. So here they are, and we will be working in those corners now, those 4 corners. Get your new color and we'll do a slip stitch here just around your finger using the tail to pull a loop. And starting close to the beginning here, get your working yarn from the previous color and start with the new color. Draw a slip stitch to your slip knot and again trap the tail inside those stitches as well. Chain 2 and we'll do a cluster. Again, we'll count the first chain as a double crochet, so we'll put 2 double crochets here, then chain 2 for the corner, and then into the same chain space we'll put 3 double crochets actually, because each cluster is 3 double crochets. So that's what we have. We have a corner now. Into the next one, we're just gonna keep working. No chains between clusters, only corners will have 2 chains. Now we can leave the white color here because we're gonna be working the next row, and we'll be working with the blue color at all corners for that second round. And I'll meet you at the end here. When you reach the end, go back at the side of the chain here, go through those loops and draw a slip stitch to close that round, and again make that loop bigger and get your work through that loop. This way I'm securing that color and I'm pulling that next color up. If you make a blanket, you don't want to have too many of those long strings so you don't, catch when you use the blanket. But for a pillow, it doesn't really matter because it's going to be hidden inside. All right, so we're going to grab the next color, and our corner the corners actually alternate colors. So we're gonna have the white color coming next, and we'll draw a loop. Because it's secure in the back, we don't have to do anything extra. So chain 2, and we're gonna do again the corner with a granny cluster, and then we're gonna chain 2, and then we're gonna do the second granny cluster in the corner, and then we're gonna have a blue granny cluster between the corners. So we're gonna grab the working blue yarn, we're gonna go through those last 2 chains here, 2 loops, and we're gonna remove the last loop from the white color, and we'll draw a loop with the blue, and that's how we're gonna change colors the whole time. And then we're gonna carry the white color behind the stitches here, and we're gonna be crocheting over it. So we're gonna have 1 granny cluster in the color blue, and then when we have only 2 loops, we don't finish that stitch, or if you finish it you have to take it apart. We're gonna use the white color to finish that stitch, and we change the color. So now we're gonna again carry the working yarn of the blue color, and we'll do the corner like a regular granny cluster, and then we'll change to blue. We have again 2 loops only here, we change to blue, and every time we need to change in all rounds we will be doing this. This gives a very smooth transition from granny cluster to granny cluster, and I'll do that in all the sides and corners. Here is a little tip. When you end this 3rd round, switch to the white color right before you do your slip stitch to the beginning, so you don't finish with the blue, and then do a slip stitch into the chain or into the stitch. In this way you have a very, very smooth transition. And then I make my loop big again. I do that for all the rounds, and then I tighten, and that's how it looks in the back. Here's in this case I was able to do it much better, so it changes from piece to piece. And we are switching to the next color because we're gonna have a blue corner. So we are doing the blue corner, again a granny cluster, chain 2, and a granny cluster, and I'll meet you when it's time for those spaces here. For row 4 we have a blue corner, but we have 2 white granny clusters in between the corners. So here's the first white granny cluster, and then we go into the next space between the granny clusters from the previous row, and then we switch to blue again to have the corner. So in this case we have the corners are opposite colors to the previous corner from the row below. So we alternate the corners. The corners kind of move this way, even though we want to think that they go this way. And that's how the square into square forms. Row number 5 starts with the white corner, and then we're going to have to switch a color here. We're going to have a blue first granny cluster, and if you look carefully you're gonna see how the rows are forming. So we had this blue granny cluster to continue growing on this side, but now we're gonna need a white granny cluster to finish that white square we have here. So we're gonna get the white color, and we're gonna do only 1 white granny cluster. And then we're gonna switch to blue again after this one. And then we'll have a white corner. And then we'll repeat that on all sides for only the first granny square, because we're gonna have to start attaching them together. So here, after that first granny cluster here for the corner, I'll do only one chain, and then I'll get my next granny cluster. And here you finish only this one with all that pattern that repeats on all sides. And now we're gonna be connecting those. So after the chain one, we get some yarn here. I'll just go into the chain space of the other piece and then slip stitch here, chain one to give it a little bit more space to stretch so they bunch up together. And then I'll do the next granny cluster in this corner. And it's time now to change the color to blue. So before I finish that stitch, I'm gonna change it. And then I'm gonna go into the blue stitch, not into the space between the granny clusters here, not here, but into the stitch, like the V loop. So blue to blue, I'm gonna do a slip stitch here, and then I'm gonna do my granny cluster. And I still carry that white color because I'll need it. So here is a granny cluster. And here I'll switch to white, finish that stitch, and then go into the white of the next granny cluster here, this one over here, and then grab my white working yarn, slip stitch, and then do my white granny cluster. So white to white, blue to blue. I'm switching to blue again, and then I'm going into the blue, and then I'm doing my granny cluster. Switching to white, into the white, grab my working yarn, and now I'm working the corner and still carrying that other color. If you don't carry it, no big deal, because it will be in the back. Just when you make a blanket, make sure you carry it. So now chain one, because we are turning that corner, go into the chain space of the other granny square, slip stitch and chain one, and now you do your corner. And then continue working the same pattern of this line all on the other sides. And when it's time to connect this piece and this piece, you just go and connect them as you go and finish that last round. And that's how it works. And these are the squares into the granny square. If you think about it, and if you want to grow your square bigger, probably I need to make a new video. The next row, we need to have a white in between here. Actually, we're gonna need blues, right? Because we're gonna have a blue color. Well, I have to think about it. But the whole idea is you alternate the corners and then you think about how you make that square. We're gonna have probably two blues, and then we're gonna have one row more with the blue, and so forth. So because they need to grow those corners. And that's how it works. So let's do the back of the pillow. Okay, this is ready. The back of the pillow is just a granny square in the round, and it's again connected the same way. I'm using the stitches to connect them, and here how it looks. It has 10 rounds, the last round being the connecting round. So 9 rounds, and on the 10th I connect to the front. And then I left an opening over here so I can put the pillow in and out. And I left some yarn. Let's see, where is it? Which I will use just to close that gap here, just to sew lightly. And this way I can change it and move the pillow and wash it if needed. Or put a pillow that's good for outside, because this will be staying outside on the porch, these pillows. So let's quickly show you the back. It's nothing fancy, just a regular granny square. If you don't want to start your granny square with a magic ring, you can chain, but start with a slip stitch. This is one way, and I messed it up. So here it is. You can do like this, or you can just wrap it around your hook, bring the tail on the top of your working yarn, and just draw a loop, and now you have a slip stitch. And you can chain 4, go back to the first chain, and make a ring. So through that ring, we're gonna be making our granny square. We're gonna have 3 double crochets for a cluster, chain 2, and again 3 double crochets. We do count the first chain as a double crochet, so make sure you have it there. And then here is our corner. You can put a marker if you're not sure. Chain 2, and we'll keep doing that. And just like this, we have another corner. Chain 2, and then we go through the ring in the middle. And if you go through the tail of the ring here, and when you pull it, you're gonna be able to close it too. And then we go into the chain and we slip stitch through that first, and then that's how we have the first round. So I chained accidentally here, but in order to move to the corner so you can work the next row, we do slip stitches into those stitches here, and then we slip stitch into the chain space, and then chain 2, and we have another granny cluster, and chain 2, granny cluster. I do not chain between the clusters because I don't like those big holes that form. So here is the next corner. We just go straight into it. We don't do anything fancy. And chain 2, finishing the cluster here. And again into the next corner. And that's pretty much what we do for 10 rounds. So 9 rounds plus the 10th round being the connecting one. And here, and I'll show you how I join. The join exactly the same, just no changing colors. All right. I go into the chain usually, and then with slip stitches I go into the chain space, chain 2, and I usually make the first cluster, and then chain 1. And here is my half of the pillow. Like, imagine it's already done and you did 9 rows here. So I'm going and I'm grabbing the corner, slip stitch, chain 1, and then I'm finishing the corner here with 3 double crochets and or a cluster, and then I'm picking the white stitch here. I do not go inside so it doesn't look like cluttered, and then I'm drawing my slip stitch through that, and then I do my granny cluster, and then I go to the next. If I have a white stitch, I'll go through the white, not through the blue. And but if there's only blue, there's no choice then. But then I'll make a slip stitch again, and I'll continue doing that till the end of the row. So I'll have it here enough spaces to do it all the way. So that's how I connect as I go. So when I'm closing here the gap, I'm trying to get my yarn to come to the outside. So I push it through one of those loops of the stitches. Then I make sure I grab both sides of the stitches here, and I make a little chain. So I'm still closing those stitches in between with that leftover yarn I have. So it doesn't really matter as long as you can make a little loop or a stitch for you to secure that end of the yarn. That's good. So it's kind of not visible and it looks finished. So let me show you what I used today. I keep track of everything I need for my project in my Crochet Project Journal, and you can purchase that from the description below. There is a link for it, and this helps me with all my projects, and your purchase helps the channel. So I will be forever thankful if you try it out and see. So I use those two colors. And I bought that yarn from Walmart. It's a 4-weight yarn. I used a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. That's what usually is recommended on the label. Let me see here. My granny square is about 5.5 inches wide. It's a square, so 5.5 by 5.5. And my pillow is about 12 inches, a little less than 12 inches a square. So keep that in mind. So whatever you get as a square, and however your pillow is, that's how you can kind of estimate the final dimension, even though it might change depending on your tension or if you change yarn. I did use 2 colors, but you can definitely use more. And I put a sample of my colors here, or you can put the label. Here is my little pattern. I printed on this little printer here. That's what it uses. And it comes with a little app, actually. Here. And then you can print all little things you can do. I typed my pattern and I printed from here. I used double-sided tape to tape it down, and I used highlighters here to highlight my little chart so I can quickly glance here, because it's quite confusing sometimes. What color comes next? What was I doing if you just stop in the middle? This printer is black and white, but they're different out in the market. They're really easy. You can throw them in your bag. And I printed a final picture from my phone. I was able to do that. And so here is my scissors. Oh, I used washi tape to decorate my pages, and if I want to keep my page open because that's a soft cover, I used this traveler's clip. And that's pretty much how I use my project journal. Oh, this is a fun little gadget that cuts washi tape, which I like a lot, and it's quite fun, and I like showing it off. That's how it is. It's very, very cute. And that's all. Check the description below. Catch you in the next one. Bye.